Last on Everdark, the Thorns found out that everyone but them in House Ravenscroft is a vampire, including Julian and Christian. Everdark, Episode 51, Leaving Home. Damon stared at the Thorns. Of the two of them, the woman was stronger. She expressed more of the emotions she felt, but that allowed her to process them better. The man held his in. That made him more fragile. The man held the woman close. Tears streamed down her reddened face while his was a white mask.
Vampires aren't real,
Henry whispered, still denying the existence of what he knew was true. While his wife asked,
"How did this happen? Well, I want to know everything."
Mom, that's a long story.
Christian rubbed the back of his neck. He clearly wasn't sure where to begin a very difficult story to tell.
We should maybe eat something. Well, you guys should eat and have a drink, or...
2 or 10. I don't know if I want to be sober or so drunk that this all feels like a bad dream.
Elizabeth interrupted. One of the staff came and immediately filled her glass with champagne. She downed it and held out her glass for more. When Henry gave her a worried glance, she raised an eyebrow at him that seemed to ask, "I dare you to tell me not to have another drink after our son and his best friend came out as vampires." "There's quite a bit of prime rib and all the trimmings for dinner," Balthazar said diffidently.
Our favorite,
Elizabeth said softly, and let out a watery laugh as she downed the second glass of champagne. The staff member simply left a bottle in front of her.
Thank you, dear. You read my mind.
She paused.
Can you do that? I mean, your gang turned into wolves, so...
Ah, yes, well, our bloodline. Balthazar let out a faint laugh. Well, our bloodline's gift is one of mind control. Elizabeth's mouth fell open, and Henry's eyes seemed to bug out of his head. But she didn't do that with the champagne. That was just a guess, Balthazar assured them. But neither of them looked assured. Elizabeth turned to Christian.
Can you do that? Read my mind?
In theory, yes. But I'm not yet powerful enough to really do that. I have other gifts, he said.
What other?
Some can control minds, some can hear them, some can speak to the dead. Balthazar waved a hand as if the last was no never mind.
Speak to the dead?
Mom, don't worry about that. We need to start from the beginning.
Christian gave Balthazar a hard look.
Right, Balthazar?
Right, of course. Yes, must start at the beginning. Small steps, small words. Balthazar swung his arms back and forth at his sides. Realizing that everyone was staring at him, he lifted a silver tray and offered it to the Thorns. Canapes? Both waved them off, but this time Henry took a deep drink of champagne. Balthazar had impressed Damon by taking some of the heat off of the fledglings earlier. Iros, though, had always been the one to step up in the past to smooth feathers, so he probably shouldn't have been surprised. But Balthazar had taken a different tact this life, and had a more laconic, jaded perception of the world. After his experience with Roan and the lack of action by his fellow vampires, especially the Masters, Damon likely shouldn't have been surprised by this either.
Do you eat any more?
Elizabeth asked them all. We can, Balthazar answered with a shrug. But there is no hunger for it, just the pleasure of tasting remembered favorite foods.
So, no more need to buy those chocolate chunk cookies you like any longer, Christian.
Her voice thickened with tears. Christian tensed.
That's not true, Mom. He just said that we can eat if we want to. We just don't have to. So I still want the cookies. I'm still me.
And it was this last line that really answered her concern. It was not cookies, Damon realized, but whether Christian was still her son that haunted her. She was sensible enough not to believe his favorite foods were who he was. Still, it was interesting to see the connections that these mortals had between who a person was and their favorite things. Well, dinner will be served in half an hour, but there are plenty of finger foods for everyone, Balthazar said and gestured towards the appetizing foods that the staff was circulating.
Look, see, the others are eating them too. Let's sit and talk. Really talk,
Christian said, as he grabbed a garlic toast and stuffed it into his mouth, likely without tasting it, but to make a point.
You can eat garlic,
Henry asked.
Yeah,
Christian said through a mouthful of garlic cheese toast. Garlic, crosses, holy water, and all of that are myths. Sunlight isn't, though. We have to avoid it assiduously. And we do. Drink human blood. Balthazar listed out on his fingers. So people got some of it right. Most of the important bits. Glad they got our weaknesses mostly wrong, really.
The boys drink human blood?
Henry suddenly put down his champagne.
Well, actually, we have to drink from our masters.
Julian said. But the word masters seemed to alarm even more.
Master means the vampire who shared their blood with us first. That's how you're turned.
Julian quickly explained.
It doesn't mean like slave and master or something like that.
Damon smiled at him. To some masters it did. But his brave Julian would never be a slave, not even to him. Balthazar loved Christian too much to ever do that to him either.
You call him master?
Elizabeth pointed to Damon.
No, I call him Damon,
Julian said, and bit back other words. You call me king, too.
You only wish I did.
Julian retorted. I am your king, Damon said firmly.
Well, they wouldn't understand that.
Julian protested. I think they would. But you are afraid of their reaction. Hiding the truth from them now will not make things easier later, Damon warned him.
They have enough to deal with,
Julian said, but his fledgling looked wretched. He was clutching onto Christian's arm as if he feared the thorns would wrench Christian away from him. Outside of their conversation, Julian's thoughts were cascading wildly, but the main thread that Damon picked out was this. I am responsible. I was the one that pulled Christian into my hunt for vampires. He only came to the city because of me. I doubt they will forgive me for this, let alone all of the rest of it. Damon reached out to Julian's mind to calm him. Christian came of his own accord, my fledgling. He would never have let you go alone to Nightvallen. You would never have given up your quest for knowledge about what happened to your beloved parents. And all of this was fate. You were meant to come to me, remember? He saw Julian's shoulders relax slightly, but his fledgling was still worried. Julian reached over to the white wolf that was the leader of the pack and contained most of his mind. Damon loped immediately to him. Julian held the wolf close, kissing the side of its head and stroking the soft fur. The wolf's eyes closed in pleasure.
Why is that man, your king, still in his wolf or wolf's form? Can't he turn back? It's just a little disconcerting to have 100 wolves with red eyes staring at us,
Elizabeth said. Julian quickly released the wolf's neck at a mental nudge from Damon. The white wolf moved to a clear space in the living room. The other wolves converged upon him, and his humanoid form was reborn, with his long wolf coat, and nothing else. He turned to face the group. He opened his arms to Julian, who immediately came towards him, giving him a half smile and let out a laugh.
I forgot that shape-shifting is hell on clothes.
Julian snickered. It was good to see him laugh. The thorns seemed to live up to their name. They pricked Julian, and he did not like it. But Julian cared for them and their opinions. He was not so sure that it was wise for Julian to cling to these mortals. Damon looked down at his nude body. Is this form not pleasing?
You are very pleasing,
Julian assured him. He looked back at Henry and Elizabeth. The thorns were staring at him with red cheeks.
It's just, you're a little distracting.
Damon recalled this type of behavior had happened when he'd prayed nude before. He shrugged. I do enjoy the new clothing. I will wear more of it, if required. Could someone go get our king some pants? And perhaps a shirt? Shoes and socks, too, Balthazar said to the members of House Ravenscroft.
I'll do it,
William called, and immediately ran off into the depths of the manor.
Let's join the others.
Julian started to lead him to the couches. Sit with Christian. I am content to stand until I have my clothing, Damon said.
All right.
Julian petted his arm and kissed his cheek before going back to Christian. Do you get a new wolf coat each time you transform back to your human form from your wolf forms? And where do your clothes go? All the Warren bloodline vampires I know always strip before they shift, but I've never seen them come back with anything on.
Balthazar, now is not the time to satisfy your curiosity.
Christian said with a shake of his head, even as he tugged at the vampire lord's arm. But come on. You must wonder about it too. Elizabeth, Henry, clothes that disappear and other clothes that reappear are fascinating, don't you think? Balthazar gestured to the thorns.
It is strange, to be sure, but I'm wondering more about the mass issue.
Henry murmured.
How does one man become 100 wolves? The clothes seem superfluous in comparison to that.
Balthazar tapped his chin, considering this. True, but the shifting mass just seems magical. The clothes are weird. I mean, really weird. I have one coat. Damon ran his hands along the fur.
But the coat was in the closet.
Julian was frowning now. And now it is here, Damon answered. Christian blinked.
So, the coat magically teleports to wherever you are?
It comes to me, Damon said with a touch of amusement. Teleporting coats. That's a new gift, Balthazar muttered. He then called to Arceus. That isn't in the order's texts. Imagine if you could just will your clothes to you. Screw dressing. I feel deprived. I want that power too.
You are not king.
Arceus chuckled. His bearded face was struggling not to settle into a grin. So are there other things you can do that the other immortals can't, Damon? Other than the Armageddon thing? Balthazar asked, looking at him narrowly.
While this is fascinating, we need to talk about Christian and Julian.
Elizabeth reminded Balthazar with a raised eyebrow. Oh, yes, of course. It's just Damon's sort of new to all of us, Balthazar admitted as he ran a hand over the top of his head. See, as new as all of this is to you, there's a lot of new to us. Your boys have pretty much upset the vampire's view of things by kissing Sleeping Beauty over there.
If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, or other dedicated listening platforms, and you want to say hi, head on over to the YouTube channel. We love to hear directly from you. Otherwise, we have no idea who's out there listening. It really means a lot. If you don't want to comment on specific episodes, we also run polls and discussions in our YouTube community tab all the time with deep topics such as, do you have pets? And what's your favorite vampire movie? Just search for Everdark YouTube or follow the link in the notes to connect with us.
I was not asleep. Not exactly, Damon corrected. He didn't say he wasn't a beauty, which had Balthazar snickering.
Your view of things, Balthazar.
Arceus crossed his arms over his chest.
Some of us always believed in Damon and the Immortals.
Yes, but not even you, Arceus, knew about the coat teleportation. And I'm sure there's more. Balthazar wagged his finger at Damon. You're holding out on us. Yes, Damon answered simply, playing along with Balthazar, whose game was very clear to him. Lighten the mood, so that the thorns could hear what they had to say when they were less emotionally distressed. Already Julian was relaxing even further as Balthazar teased and taunted and went off on tangents. I like to keep you guessing, Balthazar. Oh, you have. But I'll get it all out of you. You'll see. Balthazar grinned at him, and a message was received. Now, let's sit and answer the thorns question, as I'm sure they have quite a few. Maybe we can get this all settled before dinner. Doubtful, my Iros. Henry and Elizabeth seated themselves on the love seat. Julian and Christian took the main couch, while Balthazar sat on the opposite love seat with Arceus. Like he had said to Julian, Damon remained standing. He wanted to keep an eye on Julian at all times and observe the others. Sitting would impede this. He noticed that Elizabeth's eyes kept tracking him, dropping down his form, then quickly skittering back again with hot spots of color on her cheeks. She yanked her gaze away from him at last and looked over at Christian and Julian instead.
So please tell us what happened and what this all means.
Julian tented his hands in front of his face and rested his elbows on his knees.
Okay, so you guys know about how my parents theorized about another world where vampires reside, and that there are gates between here and that world?
Both of the thorns nodded. Julian continued.
Well, it's all true. There's another world, A place called the Everdark, with 2 moons and endless forests, and vampires exist there. It's amazing. The vampires cross back and forth through the gates, just like my parents said. They found a gate that took them to a city called Nightvallen, Damon City.
Julian pointed to him as Damon drifted to the mantel. Henry was staring at the boys minutely, and only glanced at Damon once. He clearly was looking for differences in them. They would be visible for anyone to see who had known the boys before they had been turned. Damon could remember Julian only vaguely through the mists of hunger and the spell that had kept him in the wakeless state. As the boys spoke to the thorns, outlining everything for them, Damon imagined what it would have been like, should have been like, if Christian and Julian's turnings had been planned. They should have been joyous occasions where all vampire kind rejoiced. Instead, he had left Julian alone to face the world. Dissatisfaction flowed through him. Having to now convince these thorns that the turning of these beautiful young men into practical gods was a good thing just added insult to injury. When the boys had stopped speaking, Elizabeth and Henry were silent for long moments. The only sounds in the rooms were the fire crackling, the champagne bubbling, and the hearts of 2 humans beating. Otherwise, all the vampires were utterly silent. Each member of House Ravenscroft had listened intently to every word. The whole story had not been told to them before, and they waited on every word.
This only happened to Christian because of me,
Julian said, his hands tangling together in his laps. He twisted and tugged at them in his anxiety.
I don't know if you can forgive me. I don't know if I can forgive myself.
Christian put an arm around his shoulders.
Do you regret becoming a vampire?
Julian was shaking his head and glancing up at Damon to make sure that he knew that Julian didn't regret a thing.
All I can think about is the fact that we'll have more time to do all the things we want to do, to learn all the things we want to learn. And there's so much more than we ever understood out there.
Julian answered.
Why do you think I feel any differently than you do?
Christian asked him.
Between the 2 of us, I'm more the scientist and you're more the adventurer. This whole thing is like being part of a science experiment.
But it's not an experiment that will ever end.
Henry said dully.
You can't go back to being what you were, can you?
Why would they want to? To be fragile and mortal like you? Ridiculous. As if he would choose you over me. Balthazar confirmed Henry's statement. I'm afraid it's a one-way ticket, though it must be hard to accept. There was only one choice for the boys to make. To die, or live forever. It's not really a choice at all. Elizabeth lifted her head. She had been staring down at her hands for most of the story.
So the boys died.
Elizabeth's voice was soft and her gaze distant.
And we didn't even know. Well, they say a mother knows things, but I had no idea. I was worried when they didn't answer their phones, but I had no idea.
Christian immediately got up and went to his mother. He kneeled down in front of her and tried to take her hands, but she drew them back before extending them to him again. A flash of pain went through Christian's silver eyes, but he quickly hid it. When he spoke, his voice was gentle.
We're not dead, Mom.
He squeezed her hands in his.
Feel my hands. They're warm. I have a heartbeat. Julian and I are still here. Faster, stronger, forever young, and with gifts. Magical gifts. You of all people should be excited by this, Mom.
My son could never do anything magical, but you can,
she said.
Mom, I'm your son, and I can do amazing things. I want to show you.
Christian begged her.
But they are your parents now, not us.
She gestured towards Damon and Balthazar.
They brought you into this world through their blood. They have you now, not us.
Yes, we do have them. They are ours, not yours. Never yours anymore.
Balthazar isn't a parent. I love him, but not like I love you and Dad. Really, not how I love you and Dad.
Christian gave her an uncertain smile.
If you understand what I'm saying?
So, he is your lover as well as your master.
Her gaze sharpened on Balthazar, who shifted uncomfortably in his seat, but pretended to just be fixing his coat.
And how will that work when your relationship ends?
Our relationship will never end, Balthazar said firmly.
How long have you been alive, Balthazar?
She asked. Over 200 years, he answered her. But there was that slightly guilty pause, because he knew he had lived before. She turned her gaze on Damon.
And how old are you?
Damon did not answer her, but pointed out, "What you are really asking is what happens if their romantic relationship ends. You think since he is over 200 years old he should be more sensible that such things happen all the time. But a parent's love is eternal, yes?"
Yes, exactly.
She said as she regarded him thoughtfully. She turned to Balthazar.
You have ushered my son into this dark world and into your bed, evidently. How can I trust you with my son when you have shown such poor judgment?
Balthazar's mouth dropped open, and no words came out. Damon's eyes narrowed. Did she think that a master's love for his fledgling was something that could be broken by physical love? It was ridiculous.
Mom, he's not David.
Christian said tightly. He stood up, and tremors ran through him.
Balthazar is the exact opposite of David. I know you're trying to protect me, but you're not understanding things.
Damon was impressed that the young man pushed back against this line of argument. It was one that clearly was steeped in old wounds and had a power outsized to what it should.
An older man with power over you takes you as his lover. That isn't David.
She asked.
This relationship could lead to disaster. It will lead to disaster. He should know that after 200 years, things don't last forever, especially romantic relationships.
Before Balthazar turned me, he asked me what I wanted. I knew that I was choosing to become a vampire, and I certainly knew what I was choosing when I went to bed with him.
Christian said firmly.
This was not something I did lightly. I know I made a mistake with David, and I realize that this makes you doubt my judgment, but...
No, honey. David was not your fault, and this is not your fault. You were put into an impossible position where you had to make a life or death decision, and you made it. And I'm glad you chose life, though I'm afraid what kind of life this is.
Elizabeth rose up from her chair. Damon felt the wave of pain go through his fledgling. He almost wanted to double over from it himself. For his fledgling, this was the worst nightmare.
Well, I wasn't put in an impossible situation. Julian was.
Christian shook his head.
You know when he took Damon's blood that he believed he was going to die a terrible death? But he did it anyway to save me, to give me the chance to go on.
Julian stood up.
Christian, no.
We don't blame Julian.
Henry cried.
We don't. He downplayed what he went through, but can you imagine choosing death?
Christian was shaking. Julian put his hands on Christian's shoulders.
And not a quick and easy death, but a terrible, painful one, where he would be alone.
And you were alone, because of me, Damon thought.
You came for me.
Julian told him. I should never have let you go. I will never let you go. Julian cast him a grateful look. But then he was saying to his best friend,
I brought you to Night Valen in the first place, Christian. It was my obsession that did this. I never would have let you go alone. And you had to go. We both had to know what happened to your parents.
Christian objected.
We don't blame you, Julian. That's not what I meant. I just don't know these people, and I cannot trust you with them.
Elizabeth cried. Henry stood and wrapped his arms around her.
What about this person who killed Julian's parents? You mentioned that he is the head of some religious order, and that he still intends to kill you and us and everyone else in here.
Henry gestured to the whole room.
What are we going to do about him?
It is not him that we should be concerned about. It is Callie behind all of this, with the Order being used as their puppet. Damon finally spoke. I will deal with Callie and the Order.
That hardly reassures me. From what the boys have said, you're not human. You've never been human. Julian is the first fledgling you've ever had. How can he matter so much to you that you will protect him?
Henry asked. Julian must have felt his emotions before they even fully registered with Damon himself, because he was immediately moving towards Damon as those words were uttered. Damon had not realized he had pushed off of the mantle. Henry was no physical threat to him, but his words were like a dagger in Damon's heart. You do not know what you say. Damon growled at him. Julian was grasping hold of the wolf coat.
He doesn't understand, Damon. He doesn't realize what the connection is between a master and a fledgling. He doesn't know what you've gone through trying to find someone who could become your fledgling. He can't imagine the bond that's between us. Humans don't have this kind of bond.
Damon's gaze swung over the group. They landed on Elizabeth and Henry, who looked so longingly and anxiously at Julian. They wanted to snatch Julian back from him. They wanted to take Julian away. They fear they are no longer connected to you and Christian, Damon said.
Exactly. And that's just a fear.
Perhaps that should be true, Damon said coolly. Julian blinked.
What?
Christian frowned.
These are my parents.
As Elizabeth said, you have new parents now. I do not believe your old ones will help you adjust to your new second lives, Damon said. They do not accept who and what you are. For this, it would be best that they go. At that moment, William returned with clothes for Damon and said brightly,
Dinner is served.
Join us next time for episode 52, an additional dinner guest.
Buying something from our shop is a great way to support the Everdark podcast, as well as our future podcasts once Everdark is finished. Our designer has created some great Everdark merch, such as the Vampire Bloodlines hoodies, mugs, and journals done in a college-type design. Check out the link in the notes to our shop. This way you can support Everdark and wear your vampire bloodline with pride.
The Everdark podcast by Ex Aratare is performed by Edward Fox, Adam Riley, Jay Thillis, Bruno Devant, Kelly Michaels, and Hannah Hart, with Liz Gentle as Seer. Edited by Matthew Prince, continuity by Adrielle Wiggins. Everdark is produced by Wraith Rain Publishing in association with Her Grace Reed Studios. Copyright 2022 by Wraith Rain Publishing. Last on Everdark, the Thorns do not take the news of Christian and Julian being vampires well. They suspect that Balthazar is like David, a powerful older man who is taking advantage of their son. They fear that Damon, never having been human, can't truly love Julian. These reactions cause Damon's usual easy temper to flare white hot. He wants them gone. Everdark, Episode 52. An additional dinner guest.
Damon!
Julian cried after the Vampire King had made his pronouncement. His tone was a mixture of frustration and shock.
You can't mean that.
Shock might not be the right word. After all, he had felt the growing anger in the Vampire King the more Elizabeth and Henry had spoken. And he knew that anger came from a sense of guilt and fear of losing him, and how their relationship had begun. Repeatedly, Damon had told Julian that he was precious to him, but Julian realized that maybe he hadn't fully understood what that meant. This unusual show of temper confirmed how deep Damon's feelings were, and the wounds he still carried from before. But Damon was not ready for Julian to explain his words away, if he ever would be, and instead, the Vampire King stalked over to William and took the clothes from his arms. William was left blinking, and looking around the room unsure what had happened since he had left.
Was it something I said?
William asked with an uncertain laugh.
It's not you, William. There's been a little disagreement.
Arceus grimaced. But Julian knew that he would agree, of course, with whatever the Vampire King said in the end, even if he would try to argue gently with him first. Julian's eyes narrowed.
It's my turn to argue with them.
Disagreement?
Elizabeth was glaring daggers at Damon. Damon looked back at her balefully out of glowing red eyes. He wasn't hiding the predator. And to her credit, Elizabeth didn't back down. Of course, it was like a mouse facing off against a mountain, but still.
Elizabeth, it's okay. I'll handle this.
Julian assured her. I will not be handled. Damon's voice brooked no argument. You are the fledgling, and I am the master.
Damon?
Julian tried warning him.
So you think of Julian as your slave? I knew it!
She stepped towards Damon. Damon stepped towards her. Julian jumped between them. Their matching glares were something to behold, and even he would have caved between them. But he had to stop this from escalating more. He held up one hand in front of Damon's chest and the other towards Elizabeth.
Both of you, stop!
Julian cried. Tension crackled like live wires in the room. Every vampire was staring at Elizabeth. Their matching silver eyes felt menacing. This was their king she was arguing with.
Balthazar?
Christian said as he put a hand on his master's arm. And that was all Christian had to do before Julian felt a wave of calm flow out from Balthazar to every person in that room. Julian saw shoulders relax and people blink and look away. Even Damon and Elizabeth seemed to take a large breath. The tension that was stringing Julian wire-tight released a little, too. I have a suggestion. Why don't we go into the dining room and begin eating while Julian assists Damon in getting clothed? Balthazar suggested with an easy smile. He gestured towards the rest of the group to accompany him to the dining room. That sense of calm flowed through the room again, and people agreeably began to drift towards the dining room, except for Elizabeth. Henry put an arm around her shoulders and tugged her gently away from this unlikely standoff. Her gaze followed Damon as she exited the room. Julian looked at Christian, communicating silently that he hoped his best friend could talk to his parents and make them understand that, well, that Damon was as upset as they were and that neither side was coming off very well. It was as if each of them pushed the other's buttons just perfectly, whether it was intentional or not. Christian gave a nod and made a slight gesture indicating for Julian to go on, not to worry, that he would handle it. As soon as everyone had cleared out for the dining room, Julian let out a breath that he hadn't known he'd been holding before turning back to Damon. The Vampire King had moved to the fireplace and was staring into the flames moodily. He'd set the clothes William had brought him, tailored black slacks and a matching button-down raw silk shirt, on the back of one of the chairs, but he didn't seem eager to dress. He let the wolf cloak slide off of him and stood fully naked in front of the flames. Julian's eyebrows rose. The golden light of the fire lined Damon's perfect body. Despite all the seriousness of the situation, Julian couldn't help himself from stopping and staring. There was something about Damon. He was beautiful, but it was more than that. Julian imagined it was like looking at Socrates' ultimate chair. Damon was the ultimate man, even though he wasn't human at all. Julian supposed that the beauty Damon possessed was in some way to help him be a better predator. He'd noticed that not all vampires were beautiful, but they were arresting on some level. One couldn't help but look at them, at least when they wanted to be seen.
Does Damon want me to see him?
Yes, always. I want you to desire me. Damon answered the question.
I wonder if I should find you reading my mind when I'm not talking directly at you annoying or handy?
Julian shook himself out of his dazed, lustful glance. He saw a faint smile on Damon's profile. I aim to please you.
I'm glad you said that, because that means that you must not have meant what you said about the thorns.
Julian stepped over to Damon's side. Red eyes, glowing in the dark, slid over to him, and Damon raised an eyebrow. You think you know my meaning beyond my words.
I can read your mind too, you know.
Did my thoughts lead you to believe I did not mean what I said? Julian sighed, but quickly stopped the noise. Damon was being prickly. The Vampire King really was upset, and telling Damon that Julian knew what he felt probably wasn't the best course. Damon was impossibly older than him, with so many more experiences and so much more knowledge of himself. Yet Julian could see that his current emotions were overwhelming his reason, whether Damon wanted to admit it to himself or not.
What I do know,
Julian said carefully,
is that you would do nothing to harm me, not consciously.
Those red eyes were suddenly looking towards the fire and not at him again as Damon pulled on a pair of tailored slacks. Sometimes the things we care about, the people we care about, are greater sources of pain for us than that which we do not care about.
That sounds very philosophical,
Julian remarked. Damon straightened and turned back to him. You do not see it now, but you will outgrow the thorns. Even now, you are not the young man they knew, and over the years you will change into someone they will not recognize. Without their influence, You will embrace what you will become. But I fear with them in your life, you will doubt yourself, and that is not what you need. Julian picked up the shirt from the chair and held it up for Damon to put his arms through. He was amused that the Vampire King accepted this help in dressing so easily. Julian wondered if he'd had servants for this sort of thing before. Damon seemed quite at ease with doing things himself, but he had no problem being served either. Of course I had servants, Damon remarked, reading his mind once more, a smile curling his plush lips. People fought amongst themselves to serve me. It is a great honor. Julian clamped down on a disbelieving laugh. An honor to dress somebody? Really?
Probably because they got power by serving you, right?
No, because I am their king. It is a pleasure to serve one's king, Damon said, slightly snippily. That had Julian letting out a strangled laugh.
I see, Your Majesty. Well, I'm certain the person who cleaned up after you felt honored as well. Although I do admit, I get pleasure from putting clothes on you. But then again, I get to see you naked while doing so. So where's my pleasure coming from? Serving you or seeing you naked?
Damon turned around to face him, one of those eyebrows lifted elegantly and in a way that Julian was starting to love. You are making fun of me. You modern young men in your democracies. You don't understand the joys of having a king, but I will show you. You will know it intimately. Julian's cheeks burned. He had never been shy about sexual innuendo, and had thought of sex in the same way that most people think about exercise, which was something pleasant and vital to do for one's body. But Damon made it so much more somehow. It wasn't like the Vampire King was peering beneath Julian's skin, and when Damon touched him, it wasn't just his body being touched, but the whole of him being embraced. He couldn't explain it even to himself yet.
I'm not giving up my relationship with the Thorns. Not even to please you. Not even if you commanded me to.
Julian was surprised that he spoke so openly about that, considering what they just had been saying. His hands went to the buttons of Damon's shirt, and he began to slowly close them. Even if it is better for you if you do give them up, Damon asked him.
Even if it is better.
Julian nodded.
But it's not.
Elizabeth Thorne is a determined person. She will be certain to stick her nose where it is not wanted. Damon was frowning.
Yeah, she will be. But she might have some good ideas.
Julian pointed out. I highly doubt that. She will simply interfere. Damon frowned more deeply. Julian let out an audible sigh this time.
You know that you and Elizabeth are alike in a lot of ways, don't you?
No. Julian laughed.
Oh man, never a dull moment with you.
But then he grew serious.
I don't know if you can understand this, or maybe I'm the one who's too limited to explain it, but as long as the Thorns live, they'll remind me of who I was before I became a vampire. And I'm glad for that. I think remembering being mortal and fragile is important.
Have you ever wanted to ask me a question about the Everdark, other stories, or my exciting writer's lifestyle? Every 2 or 3 months, I post a Q&A podcast with questions collected from you. When the time comes for another one, we'll send out an email to our mailing list and post on our YouTube community channel. If you want to participate, make sure you're subscribed to at least one of those. Links are in the notes.
Damon cupped his face. His thumbs ran along the lines of Julian's cheekbones and his jaw. Julian's skin prickled with heat as those thumbs passed over it. You think it will make you humble and grateful, and perhaps it will.
Being a vampire is awesome, but I have to remember just how precious a gift that is.
You are a hero, Julian, which means that you are compelled to save people. That is a powerful character trait. Heroes inspire, Damon told him. Julian couldn't help preening a little under that praise.
That's amazing of you to say.
I'm not finished yet.
Oh.
Being a hero means I must protect you all the more, because your own instincts will lead you towards danger for yourself to protect others, Damon explained, holding onto your mortality. And that way of thinking will also make you weak to many of those in the immortal realm.
Yeah, well, I'm heroic, like you said, which sounded good, but now doesn't. But
it is good. Sometimes. And I am not asking you to change. That would be a fool's errand. I admired this about you, but it is something that I must be constantly aware of and keep you safe from, Damon told him.
Until I become so kick-ass that people will avoid me for fear of my heroic awesomeness?
Julian suggested. Damon just smiled.
I never thought of being heroic. I care about people. I want to do my best by them.
Julian found himself explaining.
And if I can help people somehow by being what I am, I want to do it. If that makes me weak to some, I guess that's the trade-off. You're right. I won't change. At least, I don't want to.
Julian admitted, and somehow felt dissatisfied by his answer. Immortality is a funny thing. There are two types of people who survive at best. The first are the ones that are ever changeable. They adapt to their surroundings and those they are around. Some would say they have no core, and in some ways they likely would be right to feel that, Damon said. And the other kind is the kind like you, that holds very tightly to certain concepts of themselves, often moral ones. But that means they have a much harder time when the winds of change inevitably come.
I want to try to be a willow reed. Bending when I have to so that I don't break, but still being me. The thorns are scared, Damon,
Julian said, trying to impress through his mind as well as his words how that emotion was affecting them.
They love me and Christian. They want to keep us safe, just like you and Balthazar do. They think they know best just like you do. And sometimes, maybe you guys will have opposite ideas of what that means.
But I am your master. They are your best friend's parents. I come above them. Damon lifted his chin.
Oh man, you and Elizabeth are really going to keep clashing.
Julian leaned against Damon's front, his fingers curling around the collar of the Vampire King's shirt.
I know that you are open to other people's ideas.
I am.
Even if they're younger than you.
Most people are.
Exactly. Yet you don't assume, let's say that just because I've only lived 28 years, that I have nothing worthwhile to say.
Julian pointed out as he teased Damon's chin. I would say it would be difficult not to hear you. Damon smirked.
Damn straight. But what I truly hope is that you give the Thorns the same opportunity to prove to you that maybe, just maybe, they have a point about what they think is best too.
Julian wrapped his arms around Damon's neck.
All of you are coming at this from a place of love, and that is what matters.
Damon let out a long breath. I will refrain in my judgment about the Thorns, for now. But if I see them having a deleterious effect upon you, my fledgling, that judgment may come into effect. Knowing that this was the best he was going to get from the Vampire King, Julian nodded. Julian could have argued that he could be friends with and care for whomever he liked, no matter what Damon said. He could say that it was disrespectful that Damon would not see that Julian had the right to determine who was and wasn't in his life. But, like with the Thorns, Julian realized that Damon wanted to protect him. He might be going about it the wrong way, but that's where this was coming from. In time, either of their positions would be proven right or wrong. But at least Damon would come to the table with a more open mind. He only wondered what Christian and Balthazar were dealing with in the dining room.
He thinks he can just kick us out of your lives.
His mother asked for the 5th time since they had been seated at the dining room table.
Mom, he's a king. He's used to making proclamations and people doing what he says.
Christian explained. Believe me, he orders all of us around, but some of it is nice. He takes the responsibility for it, Balthazar remarked as he drank deeply of his red wine glass. Since there was no corpse powder in it, there was no chance of him getting drunk, but Christian felt he was maybe still trying to.
I don't blame him. I need a drink badly too.
Christian stared moodily down at the wine, but then shook himself and added,
But with Julian, he listens and changes his mind.
So Julian must charm and pet him in order for him to see reason.
Elizabeth's voice was crisp. Balthazar made a choked sound that had Arceus slapping his back mightily. Considering how less than enthused Balthazar had been about having a king before, he was clearly having quite a hard time now dealing with the disrespect Christian's mother was showing.
Damon hasn't been around people for a while, and he's not quite online with humans,
Christian explained. She still looked displeased, but that was not surprising. So far nothing Christian had said had made her happy, because Damon's personality was a complete anathema to her. Amusingly, on some level they were very much alike. While his mother would never admit it, she had tried to enact royal edicts in terms of his love life. He had simply stopped telling her what he was doing and, if he were honest with himself, he had stopped dating altogether a while back. He had started to doubt his own judgment about men because of her. She hadn't meant to do that. She had thought she was protecting him by making her decrees, but it had hurt him.
You also have to understand that Damon is older than any being that we know of,
Christian added.
But what of him then?
She pointed a fork at Balthazar, who was seated at the head of the table and was shredding a napkin.
He's over 200 years old, and yet he is quite naive.
Balthazar jolted and looked hurt as he cried, "Hey! I am not—" She put up a hand.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. It's just that you act as if love is forever, and it can be, but that's so rare.
She stabbed the prime rib slice that had been placed in front of her, which he had carved off the impressive rib roast. She sawed through it, though it was tender enough to fall apart with just a press of the knife's blade, and ate a piece. As he is my fledgling, my relationship with Christian is forever, Balthazar pointed out. I know what you are thinking in terms of love and all of that. Believe me, I know. But that is not all that is between Christian and me. A part of me lives in Christian. A part of him lives in me. That's why creating fledglings is so fraught.
But a mother's love for her child
Is profound, but so is the master-fledgling relationship. I don't expect you to believe that yet, Balthazar said as he poured himself some more rich red wine.
I suppose.
She took another bite of beef. Christian saw her expression change to one of pleasure for a moment, before she went on.
Damon is not human, right? Julian's explanation of the immortals tells me he has never been human. Am I correct in this?
It was Arceus who answered.
Yes, he has never been human. We actually do not know what the immortals originally were, or even are now. There is so much we don't know about them. But I would agree with you about the fact that simply because one has years of experience does not make one necessarily an expert. Julian is Damon's first fledgling, and his feelings about him are quite raw. Because all the other ones died?
Henry confirmed. He had already eaten half of his slab of tender beef and was already eyeing the rib roast for more.
Yes, his blood is very powerful and highly toxic, but not to Julian. There might be others who could survive it too, but I highly doubt anyone else will be given that chance. I don't think Damon could bear the loss of another potential. Besides, Julian is enough for anyone to handle.
Arceus smiled, and so did his parents at that description of his best friend. They were quite well aware of what a firecracker Julian was.
What you're trying to intimate is that he is being naturally protective of Julian and perhaps overreacting to what he sees as a threat.
His mother asked Arceus. The vampire confessor nodded.
Indeed, that would be natural. Most masters are quite, how would you say, in a delicate state for some time after they've created a fledgling. There is a mental, emotional, and spiritual connection between them and their fledgling. For Damon and Julian, it seems quite profound. Their ability to communicate telepathically right away at such a high level indicates how closely wound together they are.
Mom, you have to understand that to Damon, it seemed like you were trying to take Julian away from him. Add to that the fact that he's a king, which is why we got the pronouncement we did.
Christian said, hoping that his mother would realize that Damon was not the enemy, but was just as upset as she and his father were.
No matter what the reasoning, Christian, and I do understand what everyone is saying here, if he thinks he's going to keep me from Julian, he's crazy,
She pronounced, and set her silverware down rather heavily on the plate.
May I have another slice of beef?
Of course! Balthazar jumped up like a jack-in-the-box to serve her. It was just then that Christian realized that the napkin that Balthazar had been ripping up wasn't paper, but was fine linen, yet he had shredded it as easily as if it was a tissue. Christian winced and felt terrible about this. Balthazar was being such a good host, and trying his very best.
Let me, Balthazar. You've been doing more than enough.
Christian said, as he picked up the knife and fork to carve another slice for her. At that moment, Julian and Damon appeared in the doorway. Damon's gaze coolly slid over the people in the room. "Please, won't you sit down?" Balthazar gestured to the other head of the table opposite him. "Thank you. Damon stopped mid-sentence. The Vampire King's head turned towards the front of the house. So did Balthazar's. The two of them then met each other's gaze. Balthazar's eyes were blazing. "I can't believe she would come here."
Who's here?
Christian asked. Arceus frowned. He rose from his seat.
I know there is little love lost between you and Fiona.
"She is here to speak to me," Damon interrupted. "She is afraid. We could learn much of our enemy's plans from her." "Oh, we'll learn everything that she knows and then some," Balthazar said, and he stalked out of the room. His mother stared at Christian in bewilderment.
Who is this Fiona person, and why is everyone so upset?
Christian swallowed.
Did we forget to mention that a vampire civil war might be starting?
Join us next time for episode 53, Phase.
In case you don't already know, Everdark comes in ebooks, audiobooks, and hardcover books with dust jackets. The hardcovers are signed and shipped by me from my little condo, and each hardcover has a new custom illustration. If you're like me, you don't have a lot of space for physical things, so I wanted to make sure that the Everdark books are collectibles that will look beautiful on your shelf. The link to all the hardcovers is in the notes.
The Everdark podcast by X Aratare is performed by Edward Fox, Adam Riley, Jay Thillis, Bruno Devant, Kelly Michaels, and Hannah Hart, with Liz Gentle as Seer. Edited by Matthew Prince, continuity by Adrielle Wiggins. Everdark is produced by Wraith Rain Publishing in association with Her Grace Reed Studios. Copyright 2022 by Wraith Rain Publishing. Last on Everdark. Julian convinced Damon to listen to what Elizabeth and Henry have to say, as both they and Damon are coming from a place of love. Damon, though, believes that Julian's heroic nature blinds him to the danger that this attachment to his old life will bring. Christian feels keenly his parents' displeasure, but he sees their shortcomings as they fail to understand the strength and depth of a master fledgling bond. But just as Julian and Damon join the feast, they are interrupted by the appearance of an unexpected guest, Fiona Darksilver. Everdark. Episode 53. Phase.
Balthazar, you must keep your temper.
Arceus called out to him as the confessor hurried after him, his robes flapping about his legs in his haste to keep up. Keep my temper? Keep my temper? For Fiona? I think not. My dinner party is going like shit, and Christian's parents hate me, Balthazar hissed as he stalked into the foyer.
This is potentially a political meeting. Caemon may have sent her as an emissary.
Arceus explained as he drew even with Balthazar. No, he did not, Balthazar growled. She was caught the first time he sent her to spy on us. There's no way he would send her back here after that kind of failure, unless his hope is that we'll give her a second death. Balthazar threw open the front doors, but no one was there. He staggered to a halt. Had the Vampire King been wrong? No, Fiona must have gone somewhere. Where is she? End of the driveway, at the edge of your property. Use your powers to find her mind, Iros, Damon suggested as he strode past him into the night air. I can't! I'm upset! Very upset! Balthazar bleated. He pointed back to the dining room. That is a bloody disaster that is only going to get worse after they discover we have their attempted murderers in the dungeon.
I believe they may be upset that we even have a dungeon.
Arceus tapped his chin thoughtfully. Exactly! Disaster of epic proportions! He raked his hands through his hair. I had such plans of making the Thorns like me and then revealing the truth. They would see how well I take care of their son and Julian, and they would understand the boys were safe. They would be relieved, maybe even happy.
You have met Elizabeth Thorne, haven't you?
All right. Maybe I could have hoped that she wouldn't loathe me. That might have been an option if not for all the shit going on. The shit that Fiona is bringing with her. Balthazar's hands flew up like startled birds into the night air.
You're being dramatic.
Arceus said. Yes, because this is a dramatic situation. Balthazar scowled at him. It is an emotional one. Damon responded dryly. You lost your temper too. So no judgment towards me, your majesty. Balthazar shook a finger at him. Damon snorted. I suppose not, Iros. You shouldn't be calling me that out loud. Balthazar frowned. But he was actually pleased on some level to be called that so companionably by the Vampire King, as if it was no big deal, as if they had been friends for ages. You need to accept who you are and embrace it. The time has come for that, Damon told him. Now, let us see this vampire confessor. I'm embracing. I'm trying to embrace it. When he saw the disbelieving looks on the other vampires' faces, he insisted, I'm working on it. I just haven't told the house, and I need to do that. But it's not quite the right time, and someone will take that opportunity away from you, Damon said simply. You know this. Control the moment, or it will control you. I guess I'm just hoping it doesn't ever come up, Balthazar admitted. It will, Damon responded with a faint smile. And when it does, you'll be glad you did it. It will help you. Are you using your seer gift, or just guessing? Balthazar asked. Arceus snorted.
Which do you think?
I know what I hope, Balthazar sighed. You must tell them, Iros. You must tell everyone and be who you truly are, Damon insisted. Damn, that does not improve my mood. Good thing I have Fiona to take apart.
Balthazar.
It was Arceus's turn to sigh. No, my mind is made up. I am taking her down. She spied on us. She saw the king naked.
Everyone has seen Damon naked, multiple times.
Arceus pointed out.
Including the Thorns.
Yes, but they were welcome to see Damon. Fiona peeped. He now waggled a finger at Arceus. I care not that my body is seen. Damon was frowning. This was clearly perplexing to him. Right. Well, someone must be offended on your behalf. But enough of that. Fiona is our enemy. Let's go meet her. Balthazar grinned. Balthazar saw the shadowy figure of the confessor at the bottom of the drive. She was alone, so definitely not an emissary from Caemon. The preceptor did nothing without pomp and circumstance, which would have meant Fiona with a contingent of a dozen confessors at least. Sending a single confessor to this house to speak to Damon was not Caemon's style. She had on a long purple duster, with a hood that was flipped up as if to conceal her identity. He could hear the faint clack of the beads in her hair knocking together as her head jerked to look between the three of them. Balthazar reached for her mind, but it was such a jumble that he reared back from it. Something was very wrong, but that just sparked more anger in him. He didn't need this complication tonight.
Balthazar, be politic.
Arceus chided as they neared her. He then glanced back behind them.
I'm surprised the boys are not out here with us.
I told them to remain inside, Damon said. And they listened to you. It was Balthazar's turn to snort. Damon's chin lifted. Julian obeys me. When he wants to, which means he's not obeying you at all, but instead just doing what he wants because he wants to, which further means you're just lucky when it corresponds to what you've asked him to do, Balthazar retorted. A faint smile appeared on Damon's lips, even though he kept the firm tone. Julian is a fierce spirit. I encourage his sense of self-determination. Yes, he is fierce. Christian and he both are. Balthazar, though, stopped talking about the two new fledglings as they approached Fiona. He wanted her to know nothing about him. She was fussing with the collar of her duster, but when they approached, 2 feet from her, she dropped her hands to her sides and straightened up.
Balthazar?
Lord Ravencroft, he corrected her. Everyone seemed to think that they could simply address him by his first name as if he were just some stripling. But there was a niggling thought that Damon would not insist on being called king, because he was a king no matter what. Balthazar still felt like he was holding on by his fingernails to be part of vampire society at all. He went on, We are not friends. Not anymore, if we ever were. And I'm pretty certain that on your side at least, that you simply tolerate me while trying to convince Arceus at every opportunity, when I wasn't there, that he should dump me.
Fiona did not.
Don't defend her, Arceus. Her mind is a muddled mess. She's brought trouble with her, haven't you, Fiona? Balthazar snapped. She blinked. One hand fluttered up towards her collar again, but she forcefully put it down again to hang loose.
Balthazar, we should try to begin as we mean to go on.
Arceus sighed.
Fiona, it is good to see you. But I do hope you've come here for a positive purpose.
Her gaze, though, which had been everywhere but at Damon before, was now riveted on the Vampire King. He stood between Balthazar and Arceus, directly opposite her. Her silver eyes widened and her lips parted as she took in the black-clad figure with that sweeping wolf coat. When she said nothing, Balthazar snapped. Didn't you see enough of King Damon when you were spying on my house before? Need to tell Caemorn the colour of his eyes? She blinked again, and her hands fisted at her sides.
I am here without permission. Actually, it's worse than that. I am here against the preceptor's direct wishes.
Oh my goodness! Fiona, breaking the rules? What will Daddy— Oh, I'm sorry. Caemorn say? Balthazar snarled. Do you expect us to clap or something? He got her attention with that, as her eyes narrowed and she retorted,
That's so easy for you to say. Conforming for you would be a non-conformist thing. You've always been an outsider, and I want to be—
I'm not an outsider, Balthazar shouted. His cheeks flamed with angry colour. You've no idea about anything.
What do you mean?
She asked. What do I mean? He felt Damon's gaze on him, and remembered the Vampire King's words that he needed to embrace who he truly was. Arceus's lips were tugged into a concerned frown. Balthazar felt out of control. He turned away from her, one hand raking through his hair, and walked in a circle. He suddenly wanted to tell someone who he really was, but it was insane that it should be her. Yet wasn't he just wanting to do this? Because he wanted to prove to her that he was the ultimate insider, and she was nothing. Not a reason to do it. Or maybe the only reason to do it. To stop being an outsider, he had to admit who he was. Not just admit, but truly inhabit it. Stop trying to conform to what people believed of him and actually be who he was. His chest felt tight and he continued to pace in a circle. What to do? Eiros, Damon said quietly.
Have you ever wondered about the business side of Wraith Rain? Or what Wraith does in her spare time? Or if the food in Dragon's Reign is actually real? The Wraith Rain team has a new podcast series, cheesily called The Wraith Rain Insider, where we talk about these kinds of backstage topics. If you're interested, you can find episodes of Wraith Rain Insider among the normal story content on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast platforms. And you can find it in its own playlist on YouTube. Our topics come directly from our readers and listeners. If you want us to discuss anything, just let us know in the comments.
Balthazar stopped dead in his tracks and closed his eyes. He relished that name on Damon's lips. The Vampire King was his friend, a good friend, not in spite of who he was or what he had done, but because of it.
Eiros,
Fiona sounded amused.
what is this all about? He already knows the nickname that you want people to call you.
Balthazar opened his eyes and turned to the Vampire King. I thought I was supposed to be the one to tell people first, Damon. You just needed a little nudge. Damon's lips were curled into a knowing smile, and in that moment, Balthazar felt like a weight had been lifted. He was over 200 years old, the lord of a house. Yes, he was in exile, but it had been for a good cause. But this moment of being Damon's friend, of being Eiros, meant that he wasn't an outsider. He was an insider. He was the ultimate insider, and he needed to stop acting like he didn't belong, but accept that he did. And with that power came responsibility. I have to keep you safe, Balthazar suddenly said to Damon. The Vampire King's eyebrows lifted slightly, but his smile increased. Balthazar patted the air between them as he quickly amended. I mean, I know that you really don't need help exactly. Not like you're in need of physical rescuing. I mean, you're our king, and I am your friend, and your faithful... Oh, God, I'm going to say it. Yes, I am your faithful servant. The word did catch in his mouth a little, but he pressed on. I'll deal with Fiona. Arceus and I will deal with this, won't we, Arceus? Arceus nodded, and there was this dawning understanding on his face. He beamed at Balthazar.
Yes, of course we will.
Please go in and be with Julian and the others. We'll handle this and report to you anything of interest, my king, Balthazar said. Damon put a hand on his shoulder and squeezed it. I am relieved. I will see you inside, old friend. And then he turned with that ridiculous and yet incredibly cool wolf coat on and swept back towards the house. Old friend. Old friend. I am his old friend.
Wait, I am here to see the king, not you and Arceus. I need to speak to King...
Fiona cried.
Fiona,
It was Arceus who answered her.
Damon is the king. Even if you were of a rank that could simply speak with him, you serve the vampire who's gone against him. You're lucky to even speak to us.
What?
She sounded incredulous.
I should be honored to speak to Balthazar.
Eiros, Balthazar said as he focused on her instead of Damon's retreating form.
You can't be serious. Eiros? Your nickname?
She scoffed, her eyes huge and her head shaking. It's not my nickname. It's my name, he clarified calmly. It was amazing that he felt no need to convince her. He felt her mind in his hands, and he knew the moment when she realized he was serious, and he knew the moment that she believed him, despite herself.
No, that's impossible. You're in exile, and I remember you being turned and...
Eiros reborn. Literally, he spread his arms to his sides. Damon recognized me during a blessing and, well, the nickname was right all along. You're not so much surprised as you are afraid. That's interesting.
Another immortal?
She breathed and looked down at the ground as if she felt it moving beneath her feet. Arceus covered his hands with his robe as he gripped his forearms in that way he had.
There is at least one other immortal who exists currently.
Her head snapped up, confusion reigning in her silver eyes.
What? Who?
Kali, Balthazar told her.
No.
She breathed.
No. Who is it? Who is Kali? Someone we know, or...
That is actually an excellent question. We know it's not Caemon, but it's someone behind him, pulling his strings and trying to take over, Balthazar said, and he had great satisfaction adding, the people who claim to be so damn scared of Damon taking over? Well, it's not because they care about vampires being allegedly enslaved by him, but because they'll lose power.
How can you know this? Because he told you?
She pointed towards the house where Damon had already disappeared into. No, because fucking Kali stole Heath's spirit. Damon was going to bring him back, and Kali took him, Balthazar snapped, his eyes blazing so much that Fiona drew back from him.
But the immortals all died in the war.
Eiros did, but now I am back. But Kali didn't die at all. Sophia says that Seer is still alive somewhere too. And Damon explained that immortals don't die like other people in any case. They come back if you kill them at all, so all of them could be here. He thought on that for long moments. All of the immortals could be alive right now. Some of them might know who they are, and some, like me, might not know. But this idea that the immortals are gone and not having an effect on us is bullshit. That's more of a fairy tale than the Order's texts.
You think Callie is controlling the Order?
She put a hand on her chest, telling her this wasn't important. He could blank her mind, though he had no intention of allowing her to leave and go back to Camorn. What she knew would die here. But it was then that he caught sight in her mind of humans, dazed and chained, walking through the square before the spire. The image was so strong that he rocked back on his heels. Blood slaves at the spire? Balthazar asked.
How did you...
Fiona began. I'm Iros. Your mind is an open book to me, especially when you're screaming out thoughts like that, he snapped. Are there blood slaves in Solace?
That would be sacrilege. That would be against everything the Order believes in.
Arceus's thick brows drew together.
That would be...
Happening. Right now. All right, Fiona, you came here to talk. You're going to talk to us. Inside. Balthazar grasped her arm. She immediately moved to yank it out of his grip, but a light touch on her mind had her unable to move on her own at all. Those silver eyes went huge.
No.
She breathed.
You can't. You can't control...
Control you? I can make you do a jig. Even before I knew who I was, I could do that. But now that I'm embracing my true self, I'm pretty sure I could have you gut yourself while standing in the sunlight and smile. His voice dropped into the Arctic level. He felt Arceus's dismay at his darkness. You don't understand, Arceus. She's still conflicted even after all she's seen. It's not just blood slaves. There's more, much more. I can feel it. Yet she's still not fully on board with us. Arceus's jaw worked.
What more?
We'll get it all out of her inside. Arceus, you've got the real deal. King Daemon, it doesn't matter what else the Order does or believes. You know the truth, Balthazar reminded him. Balthazar gripped the confessor's right arm as he sensed that his friend felt a growing sense of despair. This had been there at the back of Arceus's mind for some time, beneath the glory of Daemon, the worry that the Order had been on the wrong track. Arceus shook his bear-like body.
Whatever she says will not disturb my faith, but I think it will hurt my heart.
Tell him to release me, Arceus.
Fiona attempted to wriggle.
Tell him.
I will tell him no such thing. You must be interrogated. We must know what you know.
Arceus said.
We will keep our king safe from people who would seek to harm him.
Not that he couldn't destroy his enemies with a thought, but yes, you'll do it for him, Balthazar said, not wanting her to think Daemon was weak in any way. The three of them walked back to the house. Fiona was begging Arceus not to let Balthazar control her like she was some kind of marionette.
I need to speak to Daemon,
she explained.
I need to know his intentions towards vampire and humankind. Surely you worry about that too.
King Daemon. And no, we do not worry about it. We know the king's character.
Arceus said, though without heat. Balthazar hid his smile. He'd never seen Arceus correct her.
He is really our king, then?
She asked, her voice trembling. Her body would have too, if he would have allowed it. Why ask questions to which you already know the answer? Balthazar asked her as he opened the front doors and she walked in, unable to stop herself. She wanted to grab the doorframe, rather like a cat would stretch out its paws not to be placed in a cat carrier, but her arms didn't even twitch from her sides.
I saw him when he was the tendrils.
She got out.
Communing.
Arceus explained.
He draws power from the earth.
What? Not just blood?
She sounded both frightened and intrigued.
There's much we don't know about him yet. It would not be proper to pepper him with questions.
Arceus's voice lightened as it always seemed to when he spoke of Daemon.
Do you know more, Balthazar? Considering your...
Iros? He liked how it sounded. No, I don't remember everything yet.
Remember?
It comes in waves, just a few memories at a time. He thought of the memory, vision, dream, where others had turned to dust before him as he had walked unconcernedly over the battlefield. Then he shook his head. But that's not your concern.
Did you know, Arceus, who he is? Is that why you chose him?
She asked. Chose me? You make it sound like we're lovers, Fiona. Balthazar laughed.
Aren't you?
She challenged.
No.
Arceus answered gently.
Balthazar is like a son to me, or more, a fledgling to me.
Balthazar had always guessed this, but it had never been spoken. Now he felt a warm glow sweep through him. He wished he could tell Arceus how that made him feel, but he did not wish to in front of Fiona. All he could say was, That is what I feel as well,
Then I'm honored.
Arceus answered, and there was a broad smile beneath that bushy beard. They were at the far end of the living room, heading towards the hallway that led to the stairs that went well past the bedrooms and the catacombs to a place that, until last night, he'd never had to use. Now there would be 3 occupants. He was feeling practically medieval with all his prisoners. Sophia suddenly skidded into view and came over to them. She stopped in front of them, her hands behind her back, swaying back and forth.
Oh, Balthazar, I had a place setting put out for Fiona,
she said sweetly. For a moment he forgot that she wasn't a child and stammered, Sophia, that's so sweet, but we aren't bringing her into the dining room. We need to question her.
Yes.
Sophia smiled brightly.
You will, at the table while she's eating. She likes prime rib, too. Her father made it for her birthday, and I'll let her tell you that story.
Sophia pinked and put a hand over her mouth as if the words had just hopped out. She's our prisoner, Sophia, Balthazar finally said.
Only for now,
Sophia told him.
Until what happens? What will change that?
Arceus asked her intently.
When you treat her as she would have treated you.
Sophia answered simply.
When you show her what true family is, then she'll see. The Order is my family.
Fiona raised her head up proudly.
Then I will be wrong, and you will have a delicious dinner.
Sophia answered with a bob of her head.
But if I'm right...
Her gaze became that of someone ancient.
If I am right, then I will see my mistress soon.
See her? How does Fiona have anything to do with your mistress? Balthazar asked, baffled. Sophia's smile was almost sly.
She didn't tell you how she got past the locked gates, did she?
Balthazar glanced at Fiona. Her expression was curiously blank.
She phased between the Everdark and here,
Sophia said.
And she'll be able to phase us to Solus, where my mistress is.
Join us next time for episode 54. I am King.
You know what's really great? Our sponsors. Who are you guys? Without your support, we wouldn't be able to produce this multi-actor podcast and any of our upcoming projects. Some Everdark related, some not Everdark related. Because of you, we don't have to spend all of our time on social media or rely on mysterious algorithms that change from week to week. Instead, we can simply produce the best content we can and keep the new episodes coming every week. If you'd like to support us, the best way is to become a member of wraithrain.com. That is my serial website with everything but the Amazon exclusive stuff published on it. Not only do you get the uncut and uninterrupted episodes of Everdark, but you can read over 115 chapters of the sequel, Everdark Academy, and all my other written gay romantic stories, both ongoing and completed. Follow the link in the notes to sign up.
The Everdark podcast by Ex Aratare is performed by Edward Fox, Adam Riley, Jay Thillis, Bruno Devant, Kelly Michaels, and Hannah Hart, with Liz Gentle as Seer. Edited by Matthew Prince, continuity by Adrielle Wiggins. Everdark is produced by Wraith Rain Publishing in association with Her Grace Reed Studios. Copyright 2022 by Wraith Rain Publishing. Last on Everdark, Balthazar, Arceus, and Damon go outside to intercept Fiona Darksilver. She has come in secret to speak to Damon in order to understand if what the Order is doing is just. Balthazar, however, has other plans. Starting to accept that he is the immortal Eiros reborn, he tells Damon to return to the manor while he and Arceus deal with Fiona. His powers, now far greater than before, are more than enough to keep control of her. But while Balthazar intends to put Fiona in his dungeon, Sophia Strange appears and tells him that she has set a place for Fiona at the dinner table. She hints that Fiona might be swayed to their side, and the prize for that might be another immortal. Everdark, Episode 54. I Am King. Silence had reigned at the dinner table after Christian had mentioned the vampire civil war. Julian had braced himself for question after that, but instead, both Elizabeth and Henry just drank their wine, a lot of wine, and stared blankly ahead. Maybe they had just reached their limits of strangeness that evening. Maybe they were simply overloaded with everything going on and trying to sort some of it out. Whatever it was, it had them quiet. Christian had opened his mouth to say something to his parents plenty of times, but had closed it without actually saying a word. He then went back to pushing the beef around on his plate. The dinner smelled delicious, and the taste was just as good. But Julian was guessing that, like him, Christian had no hunger for the food. The thought of pressing his lips against Damon's throat and sinking his fangs into that golden flesh, though, had his mouth watering, and his fangs ached just thinking about it. He imagined the thorns as horror. If they heard that, it would have even disgusted him a day or so ago. It had, in fact, disgusted him. But now, the thought of suckling on Damon was sexy and comforting at the same time. William had tried to introduce conversation, light and airy, which would go on for a few moments before tapering off into that thick, heavy silence that felt like it was crushing Julian beneath it. His eyes kept shifting to the door, where Damon, Arceus, and Balthazar had disappeared through. The Vampire King had ordered him to stay behind. When Julian reached for his mind now, Damon was still telling him to remain where he was, as Damon was coming back.
Coming back?
Julian straightened in his chair. Ridley looked curiously at him.
What? Why? With Fiona?
No. Eiros and Arceus are dealing with that, as my loyal retainers should. Damon sounded pleased. Julian's eyebrows raised.
Balthazar's acting like Eiros, huh?
Yes, he is.
And that makes you happy?
That makes him happy, Damon clarified. He has felt alone and an outsider for too long. This shows him that he is not, so I will be back momentarily. And then Damon swept in. Julian jumped up and helped him off with his wolf coat. He petted it, remembering the soft fur of the wolf he'd held earlier as he did so. Elizabeth frowned, but said nothing. It caused him to wonder if it was weird for him to do this, but then he realized he would have done it for a lover, regardless if such a lover was a king. This wasn't because Damon was his master either, but Elizabeth was suspicious. He understood that. All of this stuff was the exact opposite of what Elizabeth really wanted for them. One of the staff came up and took the thick fur coat from his hands to bring it back to their rooms. 2 staff members held their chairs out for them, as Damon took his place at the head of the table with Julian beside him.
What's going on with Fiona?
William asked, his boyish face alight with curiosity. Balthazar and Arceus are taking care of that matter, Damon assured him. Everything is well. Sophia gave one of those anime smiles at him which caused her eyes to close.
Balthazar is growing up to be a real boy.
There were chuckles around the table, but they were kind. They owed their current lives to him, and there was a wave of affection for him.
Who is this Fiona?
Henry asked. Julian didn't know much about her, but Isabel did and answered.
She was Arceus's mentee in the Order. That's the name of our religion, if you recall. Both of them are confessors.
That's the equivalent of priests, though our priests are warriors and enforcers of our law.
William clarified.
Warrior priests?
Henry's eyebrows lifted.
Arceus does remind me of those old-time berserker warriors.
He was in his first life,
Isabel told him brightly. Henry's expression grew wondrous for a moment.
That's amazing. To be able to speak to him about his first life, to know what it was like to live then. History truly comes alive. Could we ask him about that?
It's probably rude to ask about first lives, I'm guessing.
Elizabeth replied dryly, assuming that no good could come from knowing beings that had lived for many human mortal lives.
You're correct that some don't like to speak of it, but Arceus isn't one of those.
Isabel answered. William rolled his eyes.
He won't stop talking about it. He's a history nerd. He actually has tried to interview and record everyone else's lives.
Henry was like a pointer dog.
Really? He recorded all of this? Would he let... I suppose he wouldn't... I mean... Oh, he'll let you listen to it. Like we said, he's a complete nerd about history. He'll talk your ears off.
William leaned his head back against the chair. Henry's eyes were just shining, though, and a faint smile was on Julian's lips. This was the first time that either of the Thorns looked happy about vampires.
If you ask and someone doesn't wish to discuss the past, they will tell you. It's not rude or anything.
Isabel assured them.
Most of us aren't terribly old, so really it's the ancients who don't speak about themselves. But there's no one more ancient than Damon, is there?
Elizabeth turned her head towards Damon. Everyone else did as well. Julian tensed. It was Damon, though, who put a comforting hand over his on the table and regarded Elizabeth evenly. "What do you wish to know?" he asked her. Julian's head shot up. Was Damon going to actually tell them things? The Vampire King's mind was strangely opaque at that moment.
Will you tell me anything?
She challenged.
Mom?
Christian warned, frowning deeply. "It is all right. As Isabel said, I may answer you, or I may not," Damon answered evenly. Everyone in that room was riveted on him, even as most of the vampires tried to behave as if they weren't listening too carefully. Learning more about an immortal, let alone their king, was new for them.
Arceus and Balthazar are going to be upset they missed this.
Christian said with a wan smile. That was when Sophia bobbed up in her chair.
Wait! Everyone wait!
Her silver eyes were huge, making her look more anime than ever.
Is something wrong, dear?
Though Elizabeth knew that Sophia was a vampire, and hence not as young as she looked by a long shot, there was still a softening in her gaze as she looked at her.
I'm getting a vision.
Sophia went very still.
Vision?
Elizabeth glanced towards Julian.
Her gift is to see the future.
Julian answered quietly. Her eyes went huge. Then everyone held their breath. A glow passed through them as if a car's headlights had passed by. She suddenly slumped. Her head hung towards the table like a broken flower on a stem. Julian thought to go to her to make sure she was okay when she straightened once more. Her eyes were full of tears. She turned towards Damon.
I saw her. I saw my mistress for the first time in a vision.
She breathed.
See her?
Julian clarified. Sophia nodded vigorously.
I knew she was still with us, but now I know where.
And that is? Damon prompted with a lifted eyebrow and a wave of his hand.
Solus. She's still in Solus, our true home.
Her expression went bleak.
But in a dark place. So very dark and cold, and she's hungry, near madness.
Damon's hand tightened over his, which was the only reaction he gave to this news. Julian knew that Damon cared for Seer and Iros best.
Are you okay?
Julian asked him. I should not have gone to sleep. Such foolishness, Damon muttered. I had a duty, not just to myself but to the others. I thought everything would be fine, even though she told me it would not be.
You didn't know. Not really. He might have thought she was exaggerating, and...
I did not care. Damon cut him off. I did not care. I was too wounded to care for anyone but myself. And this is the result. Sophia was suddenly talking to one of the staff members.
Jessie, would you please set an extra place at the table beside Arceus? Of course.
Jessie, a woman with deep brown hair and eyes, nodded before whisking out of the room.
Well, who's joining us?
Christian asked. Sophia had already come around the table to Damon, and she stroked their joined hands.
Don't worry, my king. All will be well. I know how to get to Seer.
When my strength is greater, I can break into any of the territories, Damon assured.
We cannot wait so long, but it does not matter. There is another way. Fiona is Wyvern.
She told him. He blinked.
Yes, she is a Wyvern, but they cannot phase between the Everdark and Earth.
Isabel said with a frown.
She didn't say that Fiona was a Wyvern.
Christian corrected.
She said Fiona is Wyvern.
There was silence, and then it seemed like everyone started speaking at once. Another immortal? So Callie and Wyvern have been here and we've never known? How many more are there? Are any of them dead at all? The Order has been warning us for ages about how terrible the immortals were, but if they've always been with us, what does it mean? I did not sense that in Fiona, Sophia, Damon remarked slowly.
That is because she's so lost.
Sophia said.
You only knew about the other because of the blessing.
The babble of voices seemed deafening to Julian suddenly in his head, and outside of it all it became clear to them that the world they thought they knew wasn't that way at all. The voices kept growing and growing in volume.
I'm hearing their thoughts too. It's so loud, I can't block it out.
Suddenly the voices went from a roar to a whisper, and then silence. Julian's hands had lifted to his ears without him noticing. He slowly lowered them. He looked around. No one seemed to have noticed his reaction. He swallowed and let out a breath. Damon smoothed a hand down his back, resting it on the base of his spine. The hand was warm and comforting. It centered him. It was also, he realized, stopping his gifts from misfiring. Julian turned towards Damon with a grateful look on his face.
Thanks,
Julian whispered. Damon kissed his temple. You are more than welcome. You're doing so well.
I don't know what happened there,
Julian admitted. Emotions lower control, and your gifts are slowly coming online, Damon explained.
I could hear their thoughts. Iros's gift,
Julian said, and wiped sweat off of his upper lip. Yes, as Iros grows stronger, your gift may, Damon murmured.
And Fiona's wyvern? So will I start phasing in and out of places too, now that she's here?
He suddenly thought about the horror of phasing but not making it through all the way. He swallowed.
I hope that doesn't happen. Will it?
I am not convinced Fiona is Wyvern. She does not feel familiar to me, but Damon's shoulders lifted and fell. We shall see. But no, you will not start phasing. Yet.
Oh man, don't say stuff like that.
You have many gifts, Julian. You will likely have hers as well.
Great,
Julian said faintly.
Where's Sophia?
Everdark is far from over, but I know how it is when you get really into a story. You want to know if there's more. In this case, there is more. A lot more Everdark. Right now, I'm actively writing the sequel, Everdark Academy, which takes place immediately after the events in Everdark. The main romantic couple is different, but Everdark Academy includes the characters from Everdark you love and a whole lot more. Where am I in Everdark Academy? Right now, there are over 120 chapters, and I'm definitely well over halfway finished with this part of the story. But even that won't be the end. I'm dreaming up the next story that takes place in the Everdark world, so that when Academy is done, I'll just start with Everdark 3.
Julian looked around as he realized that the little girl was no longer in the dining room. He didn't have to wait long to find out, because she appeared in the doorway with Balthazar, Arceus, and a beautiful black woman in a purple duster with beaded threads through her long hair. He assumed that this was Fiona. The woman's silver eyes darted around the room nervously, before resting on Damon and then on Julian. The room had gone silent again, but this time it was an angry silence. Fiona was the enemy, no matter what Sophia had said. Sophia took Fiona's hand and led her to an open seat, which was beside Arceus and near Damon and Julian.
Here you go. The beef is really good. You should have some.
Sophia offered kindly.
Thank you.
Fiona sat with a mixture of grace and awkwardness. The awkwardness was from the stiffness with which she moved. Her hands settled by her sides and she stared down at her plate. Arceus sat down beside her and started to serve her food without being asked. Balthazar was still at the door, frowning as he watched Arceus serve the other confessor. His gaze lifted and met Damon's. Silent communication seemed to pass between them, and with a sigh, Balthazar took his seat at the other head of the table. He drank his wine moodily until Christian took his hand, and then he brightened. Everyone was silent until Elizabeth spoke.
Damon, you said that I could ask you some questions. Is that still the case?
Balthazar looked like he had swallowed a lemon. He clearly saw how badly this could go. but Damon waved a hand through the air to tell him it was fine. The vampire lord's eyebrows rose in surprise, and then he shook his head with a rather wry look on his face that said it was Damon's funeral to let this go on. Julian rather felt the same way.
But you do now?
He asked. You wanted me to give her a chance, Damon pointed out with a small smile.
You were asleep for some time, weren't you?
Elizabeth asked. Long enough that I became a myth. Damon inclined his head. Fiona looked over at him quickly, clearly eager to hear what he had to say. Julian turned an appreciative eye on Elizabeth. Maybe she wasn't just going to ask for herself. Maybe she was sensing what was going on here, and she was going to get to the heart of it.
And now the vampires are governed by a council of some sort, and the Order, and the preceptor Camorn is the head of this?
She asked. That is my understanding, Damon agreed.
And Fiona serves Camorn?
She looked at Fiona.
I serve the Order, and Camorn is our current preceptor,
Fiona clarified. But that clarification might have meant something to her, but Julian couldn't see that it mattered. His only encounters with the Order had been bad, at least outside of Arceus. But Arceus had been kicked out of the Order for taking Balthazar's side, and so Julian didn't think he was representative of the group. There was this Fiona, who had spied on them, and the two other creep confessors that he had beat up the other night while they were attempting to kill Elizabeth and Henry.
The Order doesn't like it that Damon is back, I take it. A mythic king returning would imperil the Order and the Council, I'm guessing.
Elizabeth asked, putting it rather succinctly. Fiona's silver eyes shifted to Damon, then back to her plate.
Perhaps, but there are greater questions here. It would be unreasonable of us to simply give ourselves over to his rule even if, well, we don't know.
She cleared her throat.
We fought a war to overthrow the immortals who were enslaving us. Damon wasn't a part of that, but...
A war against yourself?
William muttered.
What?
Both Fiona and Balthazar snapped. William curled low in his chair.
Nothing.
Balthazar frowned. Fiona looked perplexed. Neither knew that the other was, at least, potentially, an immortal.
The point is,
Fiona finally continued, taking in a deep breath.
that her only understanding of the immortals is that they were cruel rulers, and now the greatest of them has returned, and what should we think? How can we trust him? We don't know what he wants. Many didn't even believe it was him.
But you do now?
Julian asked. She nodded.
Yes, I do. Now.
Our histories also tell us that Damon was not part of our enslavement. In fact, we were inspired by him to throw off the shackles of our oppressors.
Arceus reminded her gently.
So a hostile reaction to him by the Order is a strange one, is it not?
Fiona glanced over at Damon and Julian again, as if she couldn't quite believe they were real.
We just don't know what he wants. So why not ask him?
Elizabeth turned her full attention to Damon.
What do you want, Damon? What do you intend? The vampire world has gone on without you. Do you intend to take it back under your rule? And if so, how? With force or...
Mom, this is the most crucial thing about the future. Perhaps we shouldn't be asking this at the dinner table?
Christian stared at Damon and then his mother. Balthazar also looked a little green. His dinner party was either going to be viewed in the future as a smashing success or as an abject failure. More than that, it might mean the difference between war and peace. Julian's gaze slid towards Damon. What would he say? Would it be the usual, I am king? Or would it be nuanced? He didn't have long to wait. Damon shifted his stance, and somehow he looked like a king on his throne instead of just a figure sitting on a dining room chair. I welcome those who welcome me, Damon answered simply. He gestured around the room. I will reward those who welcome me. Those who are my friends will never have anything to fear from me. Those who are willing to open their hearts to me will find that their king has returned, and that this is a wholly good thing.
And those who don't? Those who are skeptical of having you come back and take over? Who don't know you and therefore fear you?
Fiona asked.
What will you do with them?
I will convince them of my good intentions. His gaze was fully upon her, and Julian saw her shoulders shake. Her breath quickened, and she seemed to curl in on herself. I am your king, whether you welcome me or not, whether you are my friend or not, whether you would open your heart to me or not. This is not a choice. This is reality.
Caemon said that the Everdark is changing because you are back.
Fiona whispered.
I don't know what he meant, but I think...
I am your king. I am the ruler of all, Damon told her solemnly. And Julian could tell that these words had greater meaning than perhaps any of them really understood. Those who fear me seek to hide in the Everdark, but they are not safe there. That is my domain. It responds to me, and in a shorter time than you might believe, they will find that it will reject them. They will flee and come here, where I also am supreme.
Do you mean to rule over humanity too?
Henry asked. Damon actually smiled. I have heard from your son that the people of this country want no monarchy, but like I have said, my being king is not something that is chosen. It is something that simply is. Unlike the Order, I have no need for slaves. I have no need to be worshipped. Fiona gave a start.
How do you know about the slaves? We didn't speak of that until after you left.
He can read minds even better than I can, Fiona, Balthazar scoffed. He waved his wineglass in the air, the blood-red liquid sloshing against the sides. Just so the rest of you know, the Order has decided to take blood slaves and imprison them in solace. There was a murmur of shocked voices around the table. They believe that they can withstand a siege this way, Damon guessed. Or perhaps it wasn't a guess, but something that he simply knew. But they cannot.
If you are king, then you have all the gifts. Why can't you phase into Solus like I phased out of it?
She asked. I can. But the other immortals placed locks that were set to thwart one another and me. But those will not keep me out for long, he told her. Fiona fiddled with the napkin in her lap.
The Order and the Council are afraid of you. It is why they are doing things that are against our principles. Fear does that to people.
You are afraid, yet you are not doing those things.
Arceus pointed out.
You are here.
She's done enough. She's spied on us, Balthazar reminded him. And maybe she knows frickin' frack in our dungeon.
You have a dungeon?
Henry looked alarmed. Arceus shot Balthazar an I told you so glance.
Who are Frick and Frack?
Fiona asked.
They're confessors who were sent here to kill people we care about.
Julian answered, not mentioning it was the Thorns, and hoping that they wouldn't figure it out.
Just like the ones that killed my parents.
That was said tightly. His throat suddenly closed up. He watched Fiona's expression carefully. She did not look surprised. Not exactly. Almost as if what he said confirmed something for her.
Anything that was done was to keep our people safe,
she said. Oh, please. You honestly believe Caemon cares about anyone but himself? And maybe Artemis? It's ridiculous, Balthazar scoffed. He doesn't even believe in the faith he's the head of. Look at the way Arceus gazes at Damon, at anyone here that has faith does. It's with awe, because he's Damon, but not Caemon. No, Caemon scuttles under a rock and sends people out to try and kill the king.
Fear.
This isn't fear, Fiona, Balthazar snapped. Not fear that Damon's going to come and enslave everybody. This is fear that their power is going to be taken away.
We don't know, that's all,
she insisted, her voice rising almost as if she was trying to convince herself of this.
It's not that way for me, anyways. I'm here because I want to know what Damon intends, and I'll let the others know whether I think he...
Because your judgment is so fine. Balthazar shook his head and leaned back in his chair. Christian patted his arm, which seemed to only mollify him a little.
I am trying to do what is best for our people,
she shouted at him. No, you're serving fucking Callie, he shouted back. One of her hands went to her throat.
But you said Caemon isn't Callie, so...
Balthazar's eyes blazed. Are you serious? Caemon is of the Callie bloodline. Caemon serves Callie, and Callie has a plan. Suddenly, after millennia, one freaking Callie bloodline vampire decides to join the Order. Then He rises in the ranks, too fast, by the way, and becomes preceptor, which is crazy because we all hate Callies, so he didn't win any points by being a good guy. Then, what happens? He starts to institute changes, killing humans, like the Harrows, who find a whole new Everdark city. Oh, and let's keep that quiet, even though new cities in the Everdark are rarer than pleasant suntans for us. Houses have to send their best and brightest fledglings to the Order, whether they have the calling or not. Now he has blood slaves in Solace. What's next, do you suppose? Everyone should be glad that Damon is here now, no matter what you think about immortals. You need not worry. Damon's voice was rich and deep and soothed some part of Julian. He wanted to curl up with Damon when he heard that voice. The others turned to look at him as if they too were comforted. I will deal with Callie. You will all be safe. You can't take on everyone by yourself, Damon, Balthazar objected with a frown. Unless you intend to use Armageddon, if that exists, and if it's as powerful as they say. Damon's eyes glowed. I am king. You will see what that truly means. Join us next time for episode 55, The King's Pleasure.
Right now, Everdark Academy is only available as a written serial story for my members. In the future, that may change. But that's going to be at least a year from now if anything happens, since I still have to finish putting out Everdark itself. If you want to read the rest of Everdark, go on to 120 or more chapters of Everdark Academy and read the rest of my gay romantic serial stories, which include not only more vampires, but elves, shifters, dragons, and more. Sign up to be a supporting member of wraithrain.com. Just follow the link in the notes.
The Everdark podcast by Ex Aratare is performed by Edward Fox, Adam Riley, Jay Thillis, Bruno Devant, Kelly Michaels, and Hannah Hart, with Liz Gentle as Seer. Edited by Matthew Prince, continuity by Adrielle Wiggins. Everdark is produced by Wraith Rain Publishing in association with Her Grace Reed Studios. Copyright 2022 by Wraith Rain Publishing.